form and substance. Anima mundi, soul of the world, the one. Relationships, imperfection, glamour and illusion. Integrating the Tibetan's teachings. Given the initial premise that deity itself is working towards a perfection past our comprehension, it may be inferred that there may exist for the gods themselves and for God as the life of the solar system certain limitations in certain areas or states of consciousness which still await mastering. These limitations and relative imperfections may cause definite effects in their bodies of manifestation. The various planets as expressions of lives, and the solar system as the expression of a life. Given also the hypothesis that these outer bodies of divinity, the planets, are the forms through which certain deities express themselves, it may be true and logical deduction that all lives and forms within these bodies may be necessarily subject also to these limitations and to the imperfections growing out of these unconquered areas of consciousness and these states of awareness, hitherto unrealized by the deities, incarnated in planetary and solar form. Given the postulate that every form is a part of a still greater form, and that we do indeed live and move and have our being within the body of God, as St. Paul expresses it, we, as integral parts of the fourth kingdom in nature, share in this general limitation and imperfection. If the great informing lives of the planets within our solar system are imperfect, the effect of this imperfection must inevitably affect their planetary creations, their bodies of manifestation, and thus introduce a karmic condition over which the individual human being has absolutely no control, and within which he moves and which he shares. It is obviously impossible for me to elucidate this theme. All I can do, or am permitted to do, is to give you 7 stanzas from one of the most ancient volumes in the world. It deals with the 7 ray causes of imperfections in our planetary manifestations.
These 7 stanzas are included in esoteric healing, and we won't go through them individually. But as one contemplates the rays, it may be important to go into that section of esoteric healing and consider these imperfections from that high level of the ray energy itself. Andrea, would you read this for us, please?
The anima mundi. Virgo stimulates the soul within the form, as well as the soul within each atom in the form, because the genius and uniqueness of Virgo is that it produces the form as well as stimulates the life within that form, and therefore nourishes and energizes two lives simultaneously. It is a powerful dual energy, a potent expression of the anima mundi, or the soul of the world.
Thank you. So considering this statement that we have, that this every level of our expression, of the planetary expression and beyond, within this solar system has a degree of imperfection, and that exists at each one of these levels that we invoke when we are meditating in relation to our work on behalf of humanity. And now consider that each is a powerful dual energy, a potent expression of the anima mundi, or the soul of the world, each on its own plane. Contemplate the level of awareness and a nascent understanding that we are beginning to form in relation to these levels of duality. We've planted the seed in Virgo for greater understanding as we pierce the veils and begin to move together to a higher level. We move from the influence of Virgo, the zodiacal sign in which we're told that it rules the 7 signs, including the sign of Virgo. This is from esoteric astrology. And that progression of gestation is governing 9 signs on the ordinary wheel. So let us, in our approach, reverse that order as if we are on the reversed wheel. And as we move forward from Libra to Scorpio in the first trimester, then from Sagittarius to Capricorn to Aquarius in the second trimester, to Pisces, Aries, and Taurus, the third trimester, to prepare to fully participate at a new level of awareness, a higher level of consciousness, as part of the new group of world servers at the Wesak Festival in 2025. So we'll conceive of this period of gestation for us, having planted the seed in Virgo of soul responsiveness, and develop our opportunity in each sign leading up to the 2025 conclave of the spiritual hierarchy. So as we ponder on this field of space, this field of intelligent activity, consider for a moment what we've learned and how we can now integrate that in relation to glamour and illusion and the essential relations that we have covered to this point. The first relation of positive and negative vibratory activity with any level of the physical relation. The second relation, the relation of the astral and physical. And the third relation, the relation of mind and brain. And finally, the fourth relation, the relation of soul and personality. Each with form, each with a level of consciousness and quality, and all to be controlled by the soul. For the solar angel must put out the light of the lunar angels, and then, for the lack of warmth and light, that which has served to hinder no longer is. Ellen, would you read what Master DK tells us about the stanzas in esoteric healing?
Master DK tells us the stanzas I have selected are from the Book of Imperfections, Part 14. The 7 imperfections issued forth and tainted substance from the highest sphere unto the lowest. I'm going to read that over. The 7 imperfections issued forth and tainted substance from the highest sphere into the lowest. The 7 perfections followed next. And the 2, that which is whole and sound, and that which is known as detail and unwholesome in an awful sense, met upon the plane of physical life, the etheric plane. And there they fought, swinging into the conflict all that they were and had, all that was seen and all that was unseen within the triple ring, the 3 lower worlds. The 7 imperfections entered the 7 races of men, each in their own place. They colored the 7 points within each race, the 7 planetary centers, transmitting imperfect energy. The 7 perfections hovered over each race, over each man within each race, and over each point within each man. And thus the conflict grew from the outermost to the innermost, from the greatest one to the littlest ones. 7, the imperfections. 7, the perfect wholes. 7, the ways to oust the dark of imperfection and demonstrate the clear, cold light, the white electric light of perfect wholeness.
And so reflect on where you stand as an individual. In this planetary center of humanity. And as we move into the energies of Libra, let us call on the soul and the group soul to imbue us with a growing sense of balance and equilibrium, particularly on the plane of mind. For as we study and practice the dissipation of glamour and we begin to explore this realm of illusion, that we can do so from a point of objectivity as the trained observer. And that the telepathic rapport that we are establishing can begin to permeate into and through our serving groups, family, community, and nation, so that mind creates the thought forms of balance, the thought forms of equilibrium, as humanity strives to come to a higher point on the spiral with the assistance of the new group of world servers. Acknowledging the imperfections and not being ruled by the imperfections. Ellen, would you continue?
These stanzas convey the significance of the defects emerging from astrological conditions and producing effects of a planetary nature, and involving, therefore, the horoscope of our particular planetary logos. But these are far too abstruse, elaborate, and far-reaching in their theme, and can be studied and considered only when humanity has reached such a stage of intuitive development that men can appreciate causes and effects as whole processes and can see both the beginning and the end in one flash of time in space. In these words, Master Serapis once summed up the matter when endeavoring to train a group of initiated disciples in this mode of approaching vast subjects.
And just to remind us all that Master Serapis is a master on the fourth ray, the ray of harmony through conflict. Thinking about how far we are from understanding this and appreciating the causes and effects as whole processes, and how quickly we can move down to a point of, for some, a point of no return in considering the challenges faced on a personal level, a group level, community and national, and on a world level, and how we must continuously rise out of that trap and into a point of balance and equilibrium under the influences of Libra and the Venusian energies that are received through this coming time, this coming period. All of these prompted me to put back before us this chart or tabulation of the 7 creative hierarchies. These hierarchies, which each hold the dual nature at each point, and how actually it's really disturbing for some students to look at this list as if it can't be understood. And let us attempt to better understand these hierarchical points. We look at, for example, the point of the human personality. That particular hierarchy of Devic substance that is the mental plane, and that it is a mystery, the crocodiles, the Makara. And it is the mystery that the initiate of the third degree is beginning to conquer, and that the bulk of humanity is ruled by this hierarchy of Sagittarius and Mars, of the lunar lords and the sacrificial fires. So let's periodically bring this back into our awareness, for the 7 imperfections and the 7 perfections exist in the beingness in each one of these planes. The imperfections and the perfections exist in the beingness, in the state of being of each of these planes. As we strive to become members of the human hierarchy, eventually many to become solar angels, and the state of being to be on the Buddhic plane. And he goes on to tell us that let us bear carefully in mind that the rays are the positive aspect in manifestation. And the rays pass down into negative matter, into Devic or a hierarchical substance, thus causing certain evidences of activity. So these hierarchies are the negative aspect, the receiving, the receptive point, as far as the rays are concerned, and are responsive to the ray impulse. Just go back and consider that. The ray, the 5th ray, is the positive aspect for this 10th or 3rd hierarchy. The Makara, the crocodiles. The will to manifest is the energy, and it is fire. Within each ray and within each hierarchy in this system, a dual force again will be found. DK says in Cosmic Fire, the sons of God are bisexual. This relates us back to that first essential relation. The sons of God are positive and negative. The Deva substance is also dual, for the evolutionary Devas are the positive energy of the atom, cell, or subhuman form. For instance, while the electrons or lesser lives within the form are negative. Thus we can make the statements, all is fire, all is electricity. In esoteric healing, he goes on to say, all that you can gain from the above, my brother, is the concept of age-long conflict of 7 great energies which manifest as dualities and which produce, when anchored within one body, whether that of a planet, a man, or an atom, an area or cycle of distress, as it is called. And this distress produces the evolutionary urge and is itself the cause of manifestation. Whilst its effect, which is karma, the effect is the liberation ultimately of the perfect and the good. These things are not easy to comprehend. It must be remembered that the 7 imperfections are related to the 7-fold nature of the one in whom we live and move and have our being. And that these 7 imperfect energies hold within themselves the perfect will to good, more potent in the long run than the will to harm. Let's breathe in that statement. These 7 imperfect energies hold within themselves the perfect will to good, more potent in the long run than the will to harm. I've included a section here from a treatise on cosmic fire in relation to the fires, because we work with these fires as radiation, as radiatory directed energy in our service. So, Martine, would you be able to read these slides for us?
The internal fires of the system, of the planet, and of man are threefold. Interior fire at the center of the sphere, those inner furnaces which produce warmth. This is latent fire. 2. Radiatory fire. This type of fire might be expressed in terms of physical plane electricity, of light rays, and of etheric energy. This is active fire. 3. Essential fire, or the fire elementals, who are themselves the essence of fire. They are mainly divided into 2 groups. A. Fire Devas, or evolutionary entities. B. Fire elementals, or involutionary entities. Later, in a treatise on cosmic fire, this will be elaborated on when we consider the fire of man and deal with the nature of the 4 elementals. All these elementals and devas are under the control of the Fire Lord, Agni. When considering him and his kingdom, the subject can be taken up at greater length.
We'll pause here. Thank you, Martine, before you continue. And let's just internalize our understanding that this essential fire, the essence of fire, the fire devas, the evolutionary entities with whom we cooperate, and the fire elementals, or the involutionary entities, that we must control, and how it relates to our work in relation to glamour and illusion. For we need to understand we are using this fire of mind in our work to dissipate glamour and eventually to dispel illusion. And that we are working with fire. And as DK says, we can't play with fire. We work with fire. So in our processes, the time that we're taking to truly establish that high point in the glamour technique of soul, mind, and brain uniting and establishing that to then radiate onto the astral field, the astral plane, and remembering always never to focus on the astral body. So DK gives us all these teachings that we need to begin to truly understand, for if we move too quickly, especially in group formation, there are those who are not quite ready to move to that point and to respect what we are forming in a group in relation to working with Agni, the fire entities, the evolutionary entities. Would you continue, Martine?
It might here be pointed out that the first two statements concerning the internal fires express the effect that the fire entities have upon their environment. Heat and radiation are other terms which might be applied in this sense. Each of these effects produces a different class of phenomena. Latent fire causes the active growth of that in which it is embedded, and causes that upward pushing which brings into manifestation all that is found in the kingdoms of nature. Radiatory fire causes the continued growth of that which has progressed under the influence of latent fire to a point receptive of the radiatory.
Consider for a moment your own experience of having been drawn by the heat and radiation, the active growth of a group. And as that group was growing, that radiatory fire, as they progressed, became magnetic in a way. You were drawn to the warmth of the essence of the group on a physical, astral, and mental level. And then was there a point when there was no longer that magnetic component that drew you into the group? Martine?
Human radiatory or active fire is a factor as yet but little comprehended. It relates to the earth aura and to that radiation from the etheric which makes a man a healer and able to transmit active heat. It is necessary to differentiate between this radiation from the etheric, which is a radiation of prana, and magnetism, which is an emanation from a subtle body, usually the astral, and has to do with the manifestation of the divine flame within the material sheaths. The divine flame is formed on the second plane, the monadic. The magnetism, which is a method of demonstrating radiatory fire, is therefore felt paramountly on the fourth and sixth planes, or through the Buddhic and astral vehicles. These are, as we know, closely allied to the second plane. This distinction is of importance and should be carefully recognized.
So that which we learn in healing, first using the radiatory technique, is gradually assimilated, absorbed into the consciousness as contact is made with the Buddhic plane. And magnetic healers are those who have transcended and been able to move through the third initiation, to be able to have that glimmer of monadic expression that they can then relate down and into and truly do magnetic healing. It's a goal for many as this Aquarian age rolls out. And it's why we continue to focus on radiatory healing at this point, because it requires this ability to work from the causal body and understand the linkages that we're making along these lines and use them appropriately. Rita, would you read these next slides? I believe there may be, let me just check and make sure there's no recording still attached. I could have a recording attached, but let's just see.
Correct relation between forms will result in the harmonizing and right adjustment of physical plane life. Correct response to one's environment will result in correct rapport with the soul aspect, hidden in every form, and will produce right relations between the various parts of the inner nervous structure to be found in every kingdom of nature, subhuman and superhuman. This is as yet practically unknown, but is rapidly coming into recognition, and when it is proven and realized, it will be discovered that therein lies the basis of brotherhood and of unity. As the liver, the heart, the lungs, the stomach, and other organs in the body are separate in existence and in function, and yet are unified and brought into relation through the medium of the nervous system throughout the body, so will it be found that in the world such organisms as the kingdoms in nature have their separate life and functions, yet are correlated and coordinated by a vast, intricate sensory system, which is sometimes called the soul of all things, the anima mundi, the underlying consciousness. When we look at the analogy of the snowflake, we see individuality within the one great whole.
So the anima mundi is the basis of our brotherhood and sisterhood, the foundation of our unity with all the kingdoms. What level of realization is required in our group work? What must we constantly strive to achieve in developing that telepathic rapport as a group, and then to be able to stream on the level of consciousness those higher ideas into the group center, all done on the subtle levels. Rita, would you read this for us, please?
Consequently, in dealing with the human family, we must endeavor to think in larger terms than those of the individual man as we know him. We must look upon humanity itself as an integrated entity, as a being, as a life in a form. In this unified form, life, every human being is a cell, and the 7 races constitute the 7 nature centers, with the polarization shifting ever into the higher centers and the lower centers fading away into quiescence, until the time comes when all of the 7 will be coordinated and energized at the end of the age. We might here make the following suggestions, note this word, as to the relation between the races and the centers in the body of humanity. 5th root race, the throat center, creative power, the present, occult.
Reminding us again that this is our task, occult meditation, to lift humanity, the throat center, with its creative power, out of the present into the future. The purpose in terms of the evolution of humanity, our role. So when we, in our work with Glamour, and as we move into dispelling illusion, we are working with the substance of the brain, the etheric physical, which is all of the hierarchies. And for the planetary logos, humanity serves as the brain of the planetary logos, as we've been told. And so we need to continuously look at these relationships. For the members of the hierarchy represent those who have achieved peace and quiescence. The hierarchy can be impressed. And aspirants and disciples represent those brain cells which are just beginning to fall into the larger divine rhythm. Aspirants and disciples are learning the nature of responsiveness. The mass of men are like the millions of unused brain cells, which the psychologists and scientists tell us we possess but do not employ. And so many are working in the field of psychology, education, and science to begin to impress those unused brain cells with the clues to the higher and being responsive to the higher by controlling the astral emotional field and beginning to infuse the concrete mind with those glimmers and indications of spiritual consciousness. And that seems to be happening more and more today. So what connects and relates the parts, the sparks within the whole? We know these are the Devas. We won't listen or watch the entire Monadic Media representation that is available to all on YouTube, but let's just watch a beginning part of it to remember the voice of Michael Robbins as he has instructed so many in understanding the Devas.
Devas are energy in many respects. The Deva is the relation between. There's a point, there's another point, and there's the energy which connects those points. That is Devic life. But that's rather abstract. The Devas are a parallel evolution to humanity. Devas and angels are equivalent terms, one used in the East and the other in the West. The term Deva and elemental are sometimes used interchangeably when speaking of the lower type of Devas, but Devas are really, or angels, are considered higher than elemental lives. The body of a Deva is less concrete than the body of a human being. The human being has vehicles which are quite encapsulated and have quite a stable form. The bodies of Devas are fluid, mobile, ever-changing their sphere of radiation, and they are bodies which connect one thing with another.
First, it should be remembered that all the planes of our system, viewing them as Deva's substance, form the spirale in the physical permanent atom of the solar locus. This has earlier been pointed out, but needs re-emphasizing here. All consciousness, all memory, all faculty is stored up in the permanent atoms. And we are consequently dealing here with that consciousness. The student should nevertheless bear in mind that it is on the atomic subplanes that the locoic consciousness, remote as even that may be from the reality, centers itself. The permanent atom of the solar system, which holds the same relation to the locoic physical body as the human permanent atom does to that of a man, is a recipient of force and is therefore receptive to force emanations from another extra-systemic source. Some idea of the illusory character of manifestation, both human and locoic, may be gathered from the relation of the permanent atoms to the rest of the structure. Apart from the permanent atom, the human physical body does not exist.
So as we have done before, we're going to trace a path of ascent in relation to the developing awareness of touch and feeling from the lowest to the highest, from the lowest subplane, the seventh, the physical etheric, and the fourth subplane of that etheric subplane, which is shown to us on this beautiful rendering as touch and feeling, and move that through up to psychometry on the astral, and then moving up to discrimination on the mental plane. And always being aware that the aura of any form can be defined as the quality of the sphere of radiatory activity, and will continue to move through the subplanes as we draw down inspiration, progressing as we will into Libra and Scorpio, and then moving forward into the other signs as we progress toward the Wesak festival. So Heike, will you lead us through this next section?
Imagine the relations engaging in Devic connectivity and cooperating with the Devas as the awareness of these bridging entities descend when we imaginatively relate the causal body and the 5 vortices of love, wisdom along this path into and through the astral permanent atom, radiating emotional idealism, and into, through the physical permanent atom, the etheric heart of the head, and into the hands, the organ of touch, radiating out through the aura of the centers in the palms. Pause and sanctify the touch of the soul into and through the etheric system as you relate the highest to the lowest, using discrimination. Remember that aspirants and disciples represent those brain cells of the planetary logos which are beginning to fall into the larger divine rhythm. They are learning the nature of responsiveness. The mass of humanity are like the millions of unused brain cells which the psychologists and scientists tell us we possess, but do not employ. This analogy you can think out in greater detail for yourself, but even superficially, it will be apparent to you that when this point is grasped, the purpose for which humanity exists, the objective before the group of world mystics and workers, and the ideal set before the individual aspirant are the same as in the individual meditation. The achieving of that focused attention and mental quiet wherein reality can be contacted, the true and the beautiful can be registered, divine purpose can be recorded, and it becomes possible to transmit to the phenomenal form upon the physical plane the needed energy whereby the subjective realization can be materialized. Stretch, stretch out your arms, palms first oriented to the higher, and then radiating out love, wisdom to the triangle of light, love, and power within your being, and then directing through your ajna center, radiating from the center of that triangle to the world. This links the act of touch, feeling, with love wisdom to the base center, located in the head. So it's the base in the head. And its 4 petals or vortices, the sacred center in the head, and its 6 petals or vortices, and the solar plexus in the head, its 10 petals or vortices, and to the spleen, splenic center in the head. The aspirant, who remains an aspirant through probation, acceptance, and initiations, does this in connection with his own soul purpose if he is successful in his endeavor. The disciple is learning to do this in relationship to group purpose. And the initiate cooperates with the planetary purpose. We say with heartfelt intent, the souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve, and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. Into and through the higher quaternity of expanding soul consciousness. Transmute the service of humanity. Translate bridging as part of the new group of world service. Transform with the energy of goodwill from hierarchy. Now with that higher radiatory presence and unity, stretch out your arms, palms first oriented to the higher, and then radiating out love wisdom through your ajna as the developed personality and into the aura to all humanity as your hands are turned to the world. This linking is the act of higher touch, feeling, with love wisdom radiating into the base center and its 4 petals or vortices, the sacral center and its 6 petals or vortices, and the solar plexus with its 10 petals or vortices, and to the spleen, splenic center, spiritual prana merging into and with the etheric prana that mobilizes and powers the lower centers to express the highest essence in your being, transmuting, translating, and eventually transforming. From the higher quaternary, controlling the flow of love wisdom into the lower quaternary, and infusing the lower centers with light and love to transmute and eventually transform, activating
the words of power. The highest and the lowest meet, with purity of motive, inspired by a loving heart. Let us close, sounding the mantra of the disciple. May the energy of the divine self inspire us, and the light of the soul direct. May we be led from chaos to beauty, from darkness to light, from the unreal to the real,